Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Jacqueline Good. Very happy to be here today. I went to a TechTO event back in probably like 2017. So it's been really exciting to be asked to be here today because it's a little surreal going through being in the audience to being up on stage, and I'm really excited about that. Today, I'm going to be chatting a bit about frameworks that I use to make decisions and things that I felt were helpful to me as I was building a company, as I was thinking through pivots, as I was growing. These are the things that I've used. A little bit about why I'm here today as well in Vanasta Speak. We have, as Alex mentioned, we graduated from EF. We won several pitch competitions. We went out to TechCrunch out of 3,000 companies. We came top 6. Really, really exciting. Pitched to about 1,000 people that day. We were selected by the Canadian Space Agency as the top 10 space companies in Canada. I also represent Canada at the UN, at the International Telecommunications Union, working on radio frequency spectrum. Radio frequency spectrum, for those that don't know, this is the communication pathways, in my case, between Earth and space. All the satellites, 10,000 satellites in space, using different communication bands to transmit data between Earth and space. It's how Uber works, it's how Google Maps works, it's how your financial transactions work, it's how telecommunications work. All your backhaul cell phone reception is through space. And we represent and work with both from a military standpoint, as well as with space operators who provide those services to us here on Earth. When deciding what to do, this was something that when I was at the International Space University, one of the fellow space entrepreneurs provided this slide. And this was the slide when I was going through Entrepreneur First and building the company that I actually found to be the most useful and something that I go back to recurringly as a slide on my phone, just that I always have starred, because it's what do I want to do? What can I make a living doing? What can I do well? When you're thinking about building something or your next job or whatever that might be, what do you want to do? What can you make a living doing? And what can you do well? And there's different numbers here with associated actions, but some of them I really like because I find that, and probably got a lot of fellow entrepreneurs in the audience today, I get ideas all the time for things that I want to do or things that I want to build next. And it's really, really helpful for me to plot all of those ideas on a framework like this so I can actually decide what's worthwhile for me to pursue, what should I hand off to a friend, and what should I potentially talk about so that other people can build those things on my behalf, because I don't necessarily have the time to do it all, but I think that great things can come from those ideas. The second one that I'm going to share with you today is something that came to me about 2.5 years into building Magnestar. We came to a point where we had really strong footing with the military operators that we were working with, which is fantastic, but we were coming against some pain points with some of the commercial operators. Part of this is because in the space sector, some of you may have noticed if you're following space news, that a number of the space operators are consolidating. And so they're buying each other's companies, which makes me, an entrepreneur who sells into space operators, have a little bit more of a challenge, right? Because my customer base is decreasing. So what did we do? When determining next steps, I have found that it's very helpful to visualize, what do I have on my table? If I have a physical table and I'm thinking through next steps, what are the things that I have access to, or the people, the resources, what's great, what's physically on the table that I can pull on? And for any of those folks in the audience who are applying to jobs, who are navigating relationships, whatever it might be, what's physically on your table that you can work with and use towards your next. So we went through this process, and for us, I actually found that when we were going through this, we had this massive increase in creativity. We recognized that though the space operators that we were originally targeting as our market, we were having some resistance because they were cutting down on cash, going out of the businesses. What we did notice was that we had built out a reputation over the last 3 years of being experts in spectrum. And so we had this amazing reputation, and all of a sudden, when I kind of scaled back outreach, I had other folks that I didn't realize were my customers come to us for spectrum work. And that was really surprising. And what I realized was that we had built up a reputation for being the best. And so for those reasons, whenever anybody had a question about radio frequency spectrum, they would come to us. Fantastic. We had very strong relationships, and critically, we had runway. We had money in the bank that we could access. And that's one of the most important things, is like, well, how much cash do I have? How much runway do I have? What can I work with? We also recognized we had very strong relationships, having gone through a number of accelerators. We had spectrum data, and we had data science as a skill set, machine learning as a skill set within our team, and we had spectrum models because we were consistently calibrating whether or not space assets would have interference issues. What we realized through going through this process was that actually the spectrum data that we had is what people were coming to us for over and over and over again. And all of a sudden I realized that though I was focused on one market previously, by going through this exercise and opening it up and recognizing the value of our spectrum data, we then opened our markets up to several different other areas and people that were coming to us because they recognized that we had the best spectrum data out there. And then that was something that I didn't really expect, and when we started it, to be so valuable. I thought it'd be a different area, but it ended up being the spectrum data. And now we're a data provider. And now we have access to so many different other markets because we're a data provider. So with that, those are two of the frameworks that I use when thinking through that we've used previously while building the company. Wanted to share those with everyone today, and thank you so much.
I'll ask the first one while we wait. How many different frameworks do you use to make decisions? Like, is just these two, or do you have like a set of 10?
I have several more of them. These were two that I figured we could share today in the allotted time, but absolutely no, I have several more than this that I use. But I find that it's just really helpful for structuring thinking. Like I think that when you're kind of ambiguous about it, one of the ones that I also used, this was like back when I was working rather than owning the company, I would start every single day with journaling. And I'd ask myself the same 5 questions every day. What do I want to accomplish today? What am I working towards? How am I working towards it? And what is the end goal? Like, what am I actually going towards? And I'd write 3 bullet points for all of those 5 questions every single day. And getting into that repetition really honed focus and make sure that I was on the right path. So I think that it's whatever you're actually going through in those times, there's different frameworks that you can use. These are the 2 that have been the most valuable for us when building the company, but there are several more out there that I'd be happy to chat about afterwards as well.
If you're asking a question, can you stand up so we can just see where you are at?
So it's a mixture of proprietary data that's ours for monitoring radio frequency spectrum being used between Earth and space. It's private data that we've purchased, and then it's public data that's readily available. And we've aggregated those 3 amongst other sources into our system, and then we run mathematical models on top of those data systems for prescribing specific outcomes for space operators, regulators, military. But now we're finding actually that the spectrum data is so valuable in itself because we've aggregated it. We make it really easy to use, make it searchable. Anybody can use that. And talking about selling to VCs, one of the things we notice is that now the venture community, whenever they're looking to invest in a space company, they want to use our systems to be able to search to make sure that space company actually has registered spectrum, that they have priority, because without it, they have nothing. Like spectrum is the lifeblood of all communications, especially with space communications.
Why did you choose space? Was it the typical paradigm of difficult market, difficult problem versus easy problem, easy market?
That's really funny. I would say that honestly, most markets are hard. Whatever you're going to build, it's going to be hard. So to me, it's like pick your domain and run with it. But mine came out of like pure curiosity, pure passion. Like I want to see other planets in my lifetime. I want to go to the moon. I want to do all these amazing, like I want to go to space, and working in space, it's so exciting. Like one of the things that, I don't know if I have time to share this, but one of the things I got to do last December as a part of the work with the UN is that we got to go to Dubai for a month and negotiate all the new treaties to be signed for radio regulations. And a part of that, we got to assess all how communication on the moon is going to work. And no one's ever done that before. Like, that's so exciting. And so I think it's like, for me, it's working on those things that haven't necessarily been solved before and figuring out new ways to do it. And that in space, it tends to attract really, really brilliant minds. And I love working with smart people. So there's a little bit about that.
Last question.
I was wondering, obviously, the space industry commercial has been exploding and the cost to orbit has fallen. How are you approaching that with respect to scaling up the company and maybe transitioning out of just purely being a data provider?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we fell into being a data provider more than purposely angled in that way. It's been more of a like a secondary market for us rather than primary one we went after. In terms of one of the big reasons, to your point, with this cost of space, getting to space is going down so significantly. We saw that as actually one of the biggest reasons why we built this company, because we knew that we were going from 10,000 satellites in space today to over 100,000 satellites within the next 10 years. The number of satellite systems being in orbit will massively 10x, if not 20x. And all these space operators are using the same radio frequency spectrum. So we noticed that there were already about 15 companies focused on physical collision avoidance because there's going to be so many space assets, whereas there was nobody focused on signal collision avoidance. And so we recognized, this was 3 years ago, that how do we start building then? We could then be a leader come 3-5 years out. And that's what we've succeeded to do. Thank you.
Thank you.